it just happens to be that we get the worst tenant we have ever had in our 20-year
history. What kind of timing is that, right?
Right.
Like Tiffany is finally not able to work. She takes care of all our tenants, has literally dealt with probably 1,000 tenants over the years. When you go out of commission for a couple of months, we get the worst situation ever. So yeah, guys, I have been thrown into the deep end on this one and tried to figure out a lot of things on my own without having to bother Tiff. And it's been an interesting story. So we're going to talk about that tonight.
These tenants have actually been in there for 2.5 years. Okay, so nice older man with his special needs son, came along, wanted to see it. Their daughter first contacted me about it. They were a great fit. It was, close to their community, all that kind of stuff. So perfect fit. However, with the dad not working, obviously, because he was an older gentleman over 80, and special needs son, I said, to the daughter, that's fine. We can rent to you, but you do have to co-sign. And she's like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. So she's the senior manager for a government agency. Her husband's an IT manager. They're very well established. So we had them co-sign. So there's the first lesson, guys, is holy Hannah, did that save our booties? Okay, so when you're in doubt and the person isn't of doubt, but the situation might be of doubt, get a co-signer. Even when they renewed, they asked if they could be removed. I said, no, sorry, we need you on there. You are our insurance.
Not our guarantee, but yeah, our assurance that if anything goes sideways, that, we have some recourse. We have somebody that we can try to get some of this stuff back from. So yeah, we're going to get into some of the details as to, what has actually transpired and how we found out about some of the problems to begin with. And we're gonna repeat these lessons as we go through tonight, guys, to just kind of say, here's a lesson that helped to mitigate a lot of the loss. Because I would say, we're probably in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $30,000 in losses. It could be more than that. It could be slightly less than that. But we're probably in that range. And so instead of that coming out of our pocket, how are we going to have that covered? And so one of the points that Tiff just brought out about having this cosigner, this sister, we're going to touch on that a little bit more. But
so that's one of the ways that we have recourse, that we will be getting money. There's a couple other ways there just from recovering from the tenants. But then there's another way we'll talk about too, that thank goodness, again, that we are connected with industry experts, because based on their advice, we got certain coverage in our insurance policy that is also helping us out as well. So we should come out without anything out of pocket, hopefully, or at least very little. And it's all because of the things that you put in place at the beginning, when everything's hunky-dory, when normally you would not really worry about the details. But this is where probably the biggest lesson in 20 some years of investing now that we've come to in finding that.
Okay. So starting from the very beginning, we accepted these tenants. They were slightly questionable.
No, they weren't questionable.
No, they weren't.
No,
okay,
they weren't.
Why did we have the sister on the lease? Why did we have the sister as part of an applicant?
Because there wasn't the income to support the rent. There was the credit was fantastic, background checks, all that kind of stuff. Everything was awesome. I liked them as individuals, all of those things, but just the income wasn't there to support the rent. That was all. Like, very small red flag. When you're dealing with senior citizens, it's pretty normal.
Okay, senior citizen, doesn't have the income, somebody with special needs. As the son is 47 years old, so he's not like a child or something like that, but he has special needs. So the sister's added to the lease. Now that's a couple of years ago. Now let's fast forward to, I don't know, spring of this year. This is where Tiffany and I started getting messages from the condo corporation. Because this is a property that they rented off of us that is in a condo. So obviously there's a corporation and a management company that takes care of that. And so some of the messages that we first started to get from them was, there's garbage outside of your unit. Can you please have that cleaned up? There was another message regarding the window coverings. They were like blankets or sheets. and that it doesn't fall within our bylaws. Those were sort of the beginnings of it back in like February, March. But then it progressed from there.
And just so you know, guys, these are not the type of people that we put in our properties. Our properties usually come with people that add in, beautiful window treatments and, make their balconies gorgeous and all that kind of stuff. They add to communities, not take away. So immediately we were like, what? No, you have the wrong people. Because we were away in Palm Springs for that, weren't we?
Yeah.
And we were like, are you sure that you have the right unit? Because that does not sound like our tenant. And then they sent us pictures and we are like, oh, there's our unit. Okay, definitely us. Something is going on, right? April, we get back, we go to the unit, and holy Hannah, is it insane? All right. So guys, we get to the property. We've given proper notice. I talked to the gentleman, the older gentleman, but he forgot we were coming. So, we gave proper notice. Therefore, we're allowed to go in, knocked, no one's answering. So we go in. The gentleman is in bed and says he has COVID, and he'd just come back. So here's the story. He's on the lease. So is his special needs 45-year-old son, and their daughter who lives separately from them. We go in and he says, well, I've been away for 4 months. And so this is kind of the starting point. The tipping point was he had gone away for 4 months and left his son there by himself. And during that time, I have no idea what happened, but he went from being special needs to being extremely mentally imbalanced as well. So some crazy stuff happened. But anyways, so we told the older gentleman we would come back because he had COVID. We arranged, contacted his daughter to get him some food because he needed some food. He wasn't looking good. We offered to call the ambulance. He said he couldn't get in the ambulance because they knew he had COVID.
Tiff, you actually offered to go to the grocery store and pick up food for him because he couldn't really move. He wasn't doing well. He was sick. You're like, okay, well, we'll go and grab you some food and bring it back to you. Do you want us to do that? And he was kind of like, oh, no.
He said, I can't eat anyway. I can't eat. I throw up. So anyways, I called his daughter and I'm like, hey, he needs some food. He needs this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, a couple days later, I check in with her and I said, hey, just so you know, we're going to go by now that, because we need to assess damages and stuff, like stuff's not right. And she said, well, my father actually passed away. So huge thing that we have only dealt with one other time, really. And that's having a tenant die while they are our tenants. So whole other learning curve there. What do you do? Who's responsible? Who do you deal with? What does the estate have to do with anything? All of those kinds of things hit. So that's the story there. That's kind of where we got to from then on.
So that was beginning of April, right? Beginning of April this year. We went in within a few days of us being there. The father ended up passing away. And so then since then, everything in that property changed. It's become much more difficult, hasn't it?
So he had then a mental breakdown. Okay. So the young man, he's my age, but with special needs, went from having special needs to also having a mental breakdown. So, we definitely have compassion for him and his family. But it went to a really weird place where he started looking in the windows of other people and he started smashing the glass balconies of both our unit and other people's. He stopped using the front door. So Corey, tell him when you went to check on the property, what you saw that one day.
Yeah, I went to go and see the property and I'm parking in the parking lot and I see him walk in and open the basement window. We had heard that he was doing this. He was using his basement window as a front door. And not only him crawling in and out of the basement window, but he had other people crawling in and out of the basement window. So the front door, by the way, and this we found out in April when we went there originally, the front door was wide open. Like it was not locked. They had removed the peephole from the door. The half moon of glass that is on an exterior door, that had been spray painted. And then it was like spray painted red, and then it was spray painted white to kind of make it look normal again. But the glass was also smashed out. So the front door had no glass, it had no peephole, and it had no lock. And they were using the basement window as their entrance and exit. And
So Corey's
so
standing
obviously
there.
some of the other people living in this complex had seen this going on for quite some time, reported to the management company, and then of course that was reported to us.
So yeah, he said he was standing there and the guy just like walked right by him and just put his briefcase down and jumped inside the basement window right in front of him into our unit. So obviously there's schizophrenia, paranoia, right? Like there's some stuff going on that's certainly beyond him, I think, and beyond us and beyond his sister, right? So she was at the point by that point where, you know, she wasn't able to deal with him either. He'd gotten a little bit dangerous for her. So just kind of crazy. But when we go into the units, we also see the extent of the mental illness as well. And there is what we can now, this is lesson number 2, guys, of the 4 that I would like to talk about. Never mind all the ones that we haven't even gotten to Corey's story, because I don't even know the rest of the story. But number 2 is what you can clearly call tenant vandalism. So tenant vandalism, he's literally put holes in walls in really odd places, cut holes into the ductwork,
spray painted windows. I mean, we can go on and on. The flooring is destroyed. It appears that he removed drywall from our side of the unit to, I don't know, maybe attempt to get into the next unit. I'm not sure. But there's drywall in weird places that are removed and damaged.
No way. I did not know that.
Yeah, and then, you know, you go downstairs in the basement for one, and we're going to show a video of this place, guys. So hang on for that, because it's a 2-minute video just doing a little walkthrough of the property a little farther on into this story. But you know, some of the other things that were really odd in this property were all the cold air ducts in the basement. It's an unfinished basement and has, you know, unfinished ceiling, and so there's cold air returns that run along the ceiling. They had holes in them everywhere. Like he had cut out holes in the cold air return. There were a lot of the wiring in the property is hanging from the ceiling. I mean, we can go on and on as to some of the weird things. He installed a sink, like without us, you know, without anything being told to us in the basement. Anyways, lots of weird things down there.
So yeah, like this is crazy. So now this is the point at which I got into my car accident. So those of you that are just joining, this is my first time back in 3 months. I was in a pretty serious car accident in June and have been just taking time to recover since then. And so this is where I step out of the story and I'm no longer involved. And Corey now has to pick up and try to navigate this world of property management under duress or distressing circumstances without having all the knowledge of 20 years. Usually he would depend on me for that, but I wasn't really available. So yes, his health declined when his primary caregiver changed, for sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. We have compassion. We've been trying to be super kind and reasonable, but at the same time, like we also have to protect the neighbors and stuff. So it's just kind of turned into this insane story. So to this point, everybody, we've got one thing. We had the daughter who does not live there as a co-signer. So she's been involved in all of the court dates, documents, judgments, all of those things, because she did sign that she would be. So huge protection there. She's a very stable upper management. Second, we did make sure to have vandalism insurance. So, you know, when your tenants go crazy and do stuff like this, we do have an insurance policy that will cover that. So do make sure some renter insurance policies will not have that as a standard. And so you want to make sure that those things are there as a standard. I mean, not as a standard, so as a rider. You want to put that as a rider on your policy. So those are the first 2 things that we learned. I'm out of the picture and you're navigating this alone. We've so far seen that he's destroyed our place, but he's refusing to leave.
Okay, so we get a call from the management company, and the management company says, hey guys, the residents of this complex are afraid, they're fearful, they want, you know, they're scared of this guy. He has bringing weird people around. They're going in and out of the basement window. We need this guy out of there. What do Tiff and I say? Well, we say, okay, listen, we can get him out. We'll file an application with the RTDRS, which is the Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service here in Alberta. We'll do that and we'll get the process going to get this tenant evicted. Well, the management company says to us, well, we can have him out in 24 hours. And so Tiff and I said, okay, well, if you can have them out in 24 hours, so they would hire a lawyer and they would do their thing, have them out in 24 hours, go ahead, get it done. We'll support that. So long story short, it did not, all the claims that they made of being able, even the lawyer saying, okay, I can get them out in 24 hours, they were not able to do that, even though they claimed they were able to do that.
We could have had them out sooner.
Yeah, we could have had them out sooner. So anyways, about, a few days goes by, nothing's happening, not 24 hours. And then about a week goes by and we're like, okay, well, we need to do something here because clearly the management company and the lawyer for them is not doing anything. So we filed with the RTDRS here a claim against the tenants to evict for all of these reasons that we mentioned. At the same time, the lawyer finally gets the order in place, the application in place to also evict. Long story short, we go to our RTDRS hearing to have this tenant evicted, and we did not serve the tenant correctly. They did not have enough notice of all of our evidence. And so that was postponed a week. So the next day, we had the actual Court of King's Bench hearing that the lawyer had applied for on behalf of the condominium company. And so I showed up there at that at the court for that hearing. And it was a really odd situation because I'm not the lawyer's client. I am actually one of the respondents. I'm on the side of the tenants, technically, according to the judgment that was going to take place. But long story short, I'm sitting next to the lawyer, kind of on his side. And because I want them out, he wants them out, and it's the tenants that are on the other side.
But the condo board had to name us as respondents because we are the owners of the unit. So we are actually also technically being evicted and considered the villains in this, even though we're also wanting them evicted as well, right? Okay, so at the end of the day, we got the judgment to get them out, but the condo board won the judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the condo corporation had the ability to evict after this judgment takes place, had the ability to evict. Oh, and by the way,
we know that the Condominium Act in Alberta, but also in most provinces, always says, oh yeah, we can evict your tenant. If you don't do something about this, we can evict your tenant. We've heard this for 20 some years across Canada. And yet when it came down to it, again, first time in 20 years that this came down to it, at the end of the day, I think we have more rights as landlords than they do as condo corporations. So that was a huge lesson as well, that, certainly don't rely on that condo board's ability to do things, because I think we can get things done quicker.
Yeah. And so remember now, we are dealing with the Court of King's Bench. We are not dealing anymore with the RTDRS. And so all RTDRS rules, everything does not apply in this situation. Now this falls under the rules of court. So there's a difference here because they applied for it. They ended up getting a judgment against the tenant to evict him. They had all the power. I did not have the power. So long story short, we got the judgment against these tenants. We gave them, I think the judge actually gave him a week to be able to remove all of his goods. And now this week was about June 15th, I believe. And he could be out. He was going to be evicted. He had to be out by June 15th. And I think this was June 9th, roughly.
And all of his stuff had to be out also at the same time?
Yes. Like he's evicted as of June 15th. So yeah, when you're evicted, you take your stuff with you, right? So June 15th rolls around and the tenant is still there. The tenant is claiming that the eviction is fake, that the paperwork we were giving him was fake, that the lawyer was fake. It's all fake news, essentially, is the tenant's point of view. Wow. Didn't believe that anything was real and that he actually had been evicted. Now that's as of June 15th.
Obviously, again, mental illness, right? Okay, so you went there at least one time when the police were involved. So what was the first one?
Let's just continue the story. Okay, so June 15th, he's not out. I can't hire a bailiff to remove him because I don't have the judgment. I'm not the judgment holder in this judgment. I was a respondent.
Right.
So now I have to call the lawyer of the condo corp, and the condo corp has to hire a bailiff to remove him. So we did that on June 19th, I believe. And don't hold me to these dates. It's approximate, but I believe it was about June 19th. 4 days after he was supposed to be out, the bailiff goes in and removes him, physically removes him, locks the doors,
Like took
shuts
him
the windows.
physically?
Well, didn't physically carry him out, but I don't know. I wasn't there. He was removed from the property. Let's put it that way. Okay. Locks were changed. Windows were locked. Everything was locked up. So at this point, you're assuming that a tenant would understand the fact that if a bailiff is actually removing him, that he is evicted. It's not fake. You would assume that. You would also assume that they would want to make arrangements to get their stuff, their personal belongings in this property.
Because they didn't do during that, and even till now, but during that week's time that they were given by the judge to get their stuff out, they didn't. Did he take anything?
Nothing. He was living in there as though nothing had happened.
Okay, but his sister came and took some of the things that were special. Oh, okay.
So after they had been evicted, after they had been he had been removed by a bailiff, I had been in contact with this sister and tried several times to make arrangements for them to remove their stuff. Several times, probably 15 times within a week period. You know, please make arrangements. Please make arrangements. Let me know what you want to do. Long story short, they ended up coming. I met them there one night and they grabbed about 3 boxes worth of stuff, some religious items, that sort of thing that they knew were in the property. So they removed that.
The special things are for dads. Yes. Yeah, because remember, guys, he had passed away. The father had passed away and left the son who was now not doing well.
This fellow with mental illness still didn't believe that this was a real eviction and thought the bailiff was fake. Continued to say that we weren't the owners, the lawyer was fake, all of this sorts of stuff. So just never really understood the situation. Of course, didn't show up to any of the court hearings at this point. Didn't show up to the RTDRS hearing. Didn't show up to anything because, well, I don't know why he didn't show up.
But his sister did. But his sister did.
Yeah.
Who was also a respondent. So they've taken 3 boxes worth of stuff. Now we're like, woohoo, we can get rid of the rest. Right. You know, we can dispose of their property or whatever. I, again, like have been in and out of this, you know, hearing bits and pieces or whatever. And I'm like, well, you know, you've held it for more than 30 days, so we should be good to dispose of it. However, there was an issue. What was the issue with disposing of the property?
Well, I don't have the right.
No, I've done this before and I've disposed of the property after the 30 days and I've always thought I've done it within the law, but there was something else.
Yeah, well, we were not the judgment holders of the judgment. The condo corporation was. So if the property inside the unit was to be disposed of, they had to dispose of it. I did not have the right to dispose of that property. So we ended up going back to court again. And the application this time to go back to court, the lawyer for the condo corp placed the application, and it was for one of 2 things. Let me step back just a bit. This tenant, after all of this had happened, then tried to break into the property and break the window of the basement. Of course, not the front door, but break the window of the basement to get in to start living there again. Was arrested. We have a police report showing that. Was hauled away. And so that had happened. So because this tenant was coming back to the property, because this tenant was still being a bother to the other residents of this condo corp, well, now the lawyer in the condo corp said, okay, we need a restraining order against him. We need him out of there. We also don't want to remove his stuff, but we want Corey and my company, my corporation, to have the ability to be the judgment holder so that I could remove this stuff because they didn't want to do it. So we went back to court again. And at that court proceeding, we got the right to be the judgment holder. So now I, or my company, our company, is the judgment holder. And we have the right to dispose of his goods. But the judge made one more stipulation in this case. And he stipulated that this tenant would have one more chance to remove their goods. And he gave them, this was on a Thursday, I believe, This was coming up to September long weekend. Because of the long weekend, he gave them from Tuesday at 8 a.m., so whatever day that was, September 5th, I think, till the Wednesday at noon. So he had a day and a half to remove his goods, get whatever he wants from this property out. Okay. As of noon of that Wednesday, a restraining order was in place. He could not be within 100 meters of the property.
Oh, of the property. Because I was going to say, who was this restraining order on? I thought that was on people. So of the property.
Well, he could not. The restraining order is against him, and he cannot be within 100 meters of the condo corporation of our units, where all the units are. Okay, the complex.
I didn't even know you could do that, but okay, good.
So anyways, we got that. And so Tuesday morning, 8 a.m., I show up there. I unlock the door and he wasn't there. So I emailed him right away. I was expecting for him, actually after the court, when we were in court, he walked out. I was waiting for him. He walked out and I said to him, listen, are you going to be there at Tuesday at 8 o'clock? Oh, yes. I'll be there. Yes. I'm like, okay. And you're going to remove all of your stuff? Yes. Oh, yes. So I half expected him to be there. And, the judge specifically said to him, this is your chance to get your stuff out. This is your chance to get a truck, to get some help, get all of your junk out of there. They don't want it. And so he had that opportunity. Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock comes along. I open the door. No one's there. I waited around till, I don't know, about 8:30 or so. Nobody showed up. So I emailed him and I said, where are you? Are you coming to get your stuff? Oh, I'll be there as soon as I can. So that's his response. Anyways, he had until noon the following day. So yes, you would expect this tenant would be out. He was given from Tuesday 8 a.m. to Wednesday at noon. I showed up, guys. I actually gave him 2.5 extra hours. I showed up at about 3 o'clock. And I thought, I just hope that this property is empty. I hope that this property, like the tenant is gone. This is all my hopes, guys. And I'm going to show you a video now of what I saw when I went inside. And you get an idea as to what kind of property what kind of thing we're dealing with here. All right, here we go.
September 6, 2023. Tenant was given a day and a half to remove their goods. And the goods are all still here. He moved about 7 or 8 boxes. That's all that he took. Everything else is still here. Of course, none of the lights work. The bulbs have been removed.
Bulbs have been removed?
Yeah, all the light bulbs are out of the property.
The police have come and taken him away. He's sitting in the car right now. And that is his vehicle in our parking stall, which is going to be towed. We are ordering that tow.
You can see the damage in the drywall there.
And the blinds,
on the property.
Mm-hmm.
they're all wrecked. Weird.
Now check out the basement, guys.
Oh my goodness. That's a hole in the drywall.
Well, the drywall above the stairs here is gone. That's removed, and he was using it as storage up there. And check out this basement. You see the holes in the cold air returns up above that were cut for some reason. All the wires that are hanging.
Police did mention that they arrested him recently for meth here in this basement.
That was the window he was coming in and out of. Look how full of stuff it is. All right, there we go. What do you think, guys?
Crazy.
How would you like it if one of your properties looked like that? After a couple months of dealing with court dates and tenants, I don't know how many emails I received from this guy swearing and not believing thinking that this was all fake. Yeah, just it's been a bit of a nightmare for the last couple of months.
That he was calling it all fake. I didn't know that.
What's that?
I mean, I saw,
Oh, yeah.
I got a couple emails myself, but again, I wasn't on my stuff, so I didn't really look at them or whatever. And I saw that, man, crazy. So yeah, there is, and you know what, Angie says, like, this is so sad, and it's true. Like, you know, you're trying to be compassionate with someone who's got trouble. And we've got people in our own family that have schizophrenia and have massive mental illness problems, and you know, we're trying to be kind and compassionate, but at the same time, like, you know, like, this has to come to an end. So someone asked, did he died in April? Yes. The older gentleman that was our tenant for the last 2.5 years died in April. This is now coming into September. So generally in Alberta, we're able to have this stuff dealt with within 3 to 5 weeks.
And
you know,
I think we would have if we had dealt with this from the very beginning versus handing it over to the condo court for them to deal with. That was kind of we did that thinking things would go smoother, quicker. We could have them out. Everything would be handled by somebody else essentially. And that was really our bad decision in doing all of this. If we had just dealt with it straight with the RTDRS ourselves and had the power to do what we needed to do ourselves and not switched from RTDRS rules over to rules of court, there's a difference in all of that. And that's what really would have made it so much simpler. And so this is a lesson that we have never had to deal with before, right? Like, we've never had a court evict a tenant versus us doing it. So that's the difference in this.
You've also never dealt with this kind of stuff before, and this was all dropped on you all in one day. On June 12th, everything got dropped in your lap and out of my lap. So to be fair, there's only so much that you knew and could do, and you were just trying to protect me by not burdening me with the stress of it. And, you know, like, it is what it is, right? Like, you learn from it, but also I don't think there's anything else you could have done in this situation. I don't think, anyways, because you just did what you thought was best at the time. So
yeah.
Anyways, Kate, I want to hear about the vacuum, because you said that you went in the other day. This is the stuff that I was like, well, why don't we just do this?
The crazy part is, I show up at 3:00 on the Wednesday, and I'm like, okay, hoping that the place is empty. And I walk up the stairs and I hear talking inside, and I'm like, oh, they're still here. I didn't see a truck outside. His car was still there. I was like, okay, so he hasn't moved out. So I knock on the door, no answer. Knock loud, no answer. I open the door, I walk in, and there he is sitting on his knees with a handheld vacuum, and he's vacuuming the carpet. And I'm like, so what are you doing? And he's like, oh, just give me a few minutes. I'm like, well, you don't have a few minutes. You know, you're 3 hours over. You're actually in the point of there's a restraining order against you, and you're not allowed to be here. Oh, just give me half an hour. I'm like, I can't give you half an hour. You need to leave and you need to get this stuff out, and you didn't do that. And it's just disheartening, right? And it's just like, oh, like, come on now, get it together. But he's just clearly didn't have the ability to, and wouldn't listen to me, became very confrontational at that point. And so because of that, I did call the police, and I called the police. They showed up within 20 minutes or so. You know, I showed them the restraining order. I told them what was going on. They let him take his 7 or 8 boxes out, put them in his car. They ended up arresting him based on other warrants that were outstanding on him. Threw him in their police car, and they were gracious enough to say, hey, listen, why don't we get rid of this vehicle? We'll tow it away. And they towed it away. So at least that's not there anymore. So yeah, it's, you know, these are the types of things that we come on here all the time, guys, on our Tactical Tuesdays, talking about all of the positives and the wealth building strategies that real estate investment can bring you. But it's not without some struggles along the way. It's not without these types of headaches along the way. And, you know, I don't know, less than a handful of times have we had to deal with situations like this over the 20 plus years that we've been investing as real estate investors. and the thousands of tenants we've had. So it's a very, very small percentage of what happens out there. However, it happens. It happens to the best of us. It happens to Tiff and I. And it can happen to any one of you as well. And so this is why we kind of wanted to highlight some of the lessons that we can take from this. What are some of the things that have actually helped us? And one of the things that we haven't really touched on yet that I wanted to bring out now is we actually have insurance against vandalism. And so once all of this stuff is removed, and I will be disposing of it in the next couple of days, once it's removed, the insurance company is going to come in. I've already even spoken with the appraiser, and she's going to come in, have a look at the property, and going to assess. The claim has already been approved. It's just, okay, what are we fixing here? And so the property will be brought back up to standard based on that. And insurance will cover the vandalism because we had that rider added to our policy.
Like there's 10 grand right there easily that I figure we've saved ourselves. Again, guys, the simple thing is adding, when you do get your rental property insured, all you do is ask if there are three things. So is there tenant vandalism? Is there sump pump, sewer backup insurance? And is there insurance to cover my tenants, help them out if there's so that we still get paid rent. We get paid rent if they have to move somewhere else while we're fixing a place for flood or fire or whatever. Those are the three things that are not generally covered on an insurance policy that we do want covered as investors. And to have them added on is close to free. It's not a big deal, but you do have to ask for them with some policies. So those three things, guys, make sure that you have those on your insurance policies, okay? Vandalism, sewer backup, and loss of rental income. That's what it's called.
So having the insurance is definitely a plus. That's going to make everything a lot simpler. That's going to help get this property back up and running a lot quicker. The other side of that is that we have the sister added as a co-leasee. And because of that, it is somebody that does care about their credit. It is somebody that is responsible, just like the tenants that were living there. And the fact that she had never spent one night in this property is irrelevant to the fact that she is on the lease and responsible for what that lease says. And so if you are a tenant at any point, adding a cosigner to the lease is can save a lot of headaches as well. So those are some lessons. Some lessons as well about, in my opinion, going the route of the condo corp and the lawyer and going to the Court of King's Bench actually cost us a lot of time and a lot of headaches versus us just dealing with it with the RTDRS. And I know that I'm not sure that the RTDRS is in every province across the country, but it might be called something different in the province you're in. But usually dealing with this and getting the judgment in your name would save a lot of hassle as well. And just so everybody knows, I got a quote from a moving company to move all of this stuff into a storage unit. I've gotten quotes from disposal companies to dispose of everything in here is going to cost about $2,500. To move it all into a storage unit is going to cost about $6,000. So the fact that this is rules of court, Alberta rules of court, guys. It is under abandoned goods 9.28. And here's some of the rules. I'm just going to read this quickly. Number 2 under that rule is, and this applies because a civil enforcement agency was hired to remove him. If he had left on his own, these don't apply. But because he was removed by a bailiff, these things apply. A judgment holder, which we weren't at the beginning but are now, may dispose of abandoned goods if the judgment holder believes on reasonable grounds that the abandoned goods have a market value of less than $2,000. Now, looking at the stuff in there, I would say it's over $2,000. But here's number 3. Even though abandoned goods have a market value of $2,000 or more, a judgment holder may sell the goods by a means and for a price that the judgment holder believes is reasonable if the judgment holder believes on reasonable grounds that B, the cost of removing, storing, and selling the goods would exceed the proceeds of their sale. Now, that's why I got costs and estimates from a moving company, because the cost to remove, store, and then sell the goods is probably around $10,000. Do I believe there's $10,000 worth of goods in there? No, I do not. And so because the rules of court say this, I now have the ability, and because I'm a judgment holder, I now have the ability to remove these goods and sell / dispose of them in a way that I find reasonable. And so that's where we're at with this now. And I'm hoping within the next week or so to have this out. But
Okay, that's good news. Because last time I talked to you, you were like, I don't think we can because it's worth over $2,000. And I was like, what? I've disposed of goods. And you were like, well, I don't think so. I have to look at the law. And I'm like, what? So yeah, like it's all good. I'm glad that I'm glad that that's, because I didn't know the end of the story either, guys. I didn't know if we were allowed to remove goods at this point or not. Last time I talked to Corey about it, we were not. And last time I talked to him about it, I was like, can the guy, do we still have to hold it for him? So anyways, whew,
yeah,
that's good news.
So yeah, hopefully what the plan is in the next week or so, we're going to have all of that stuff removed. We will then have insurance come in and arrange for the repairs to be done. And we will continue on with this property, guys, and move on from it and not let it stress us and not keep us up at night. Because this is something that over the last 6-8 weeks has been, well, since June 15th, roughly, has been keeping me awake at night. And is it something I want to deal with? Absolutely not. But this is part of the business. And these are some of the things that everybody here needs to be aware of that can happen.
But also, you did have a partner that you normally could rely on that was an expert in this. And guys, if you're going into JV partnerships with people, normally, like I said, this would have been my department. I would have been dealing with this, and I would have done it, through a route that I was already familiar with. So that's, another thing you can learn from it is if you do have a joint venture partner, do they know the laws in your area? Do they know what they're doing? I dropped off the face of the earth on June 12th. So, I wasn't able to help you, but that's a thing. Or even coaches that know. And if not, guys, there are professionals. We're not used to using those professionals because, like I said, I know the RTA in Alberta so very well, but there are professionals that can help you do this, whether it's a notary, a paralegal, depending on province, or a bailiff, those kinds of things. So, those kinds of things, don't, try to do this alone. Get some like-minded people here in Fearless, ask your questions. Don't try to wing it alone because, man, it doesn't have to be this hard because we've been doing this for 20 years. We've had crazy situations. We've had places I've had to take bear spray and had the cops accompany me to give notices and stuff, but never like this. So.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining us tonight. It was a fun topic to talk about. Fun in some ways, not fun in others, but see you next week, guys.